So let me just talk you briefly through Lunch and Learn for those that haven't been here. I think most of the people have. It's a monthly event, webinar-based event that we put on for free just to give back to marketing, marketeers, business owners across the country. We get most of the people coming from Northampton because that's where we're based, from Northamptonshire. And it's our way of giving back. And I always say, if you can take away one thing from this event today, then that's our job done. There's some stuff you'll know, I'm sure. There's some stuff that you maybe won't know. So that's Lunch and Learn. Now, I'm Dave. I set up 146, which is our digital agency, back in 2011 now. So we are 13 years old, 12 and a half years old. It's a bit crazy, really. We've also got a couple of other brands. We've got Northants Life, which you may have heard of. A lot of stuff going on with that at the moment. Loads of changes, positive changes. That's a Northants-based media, online media outlet. So it kind of complements what we do with Northants Life a little bit. We've also got an entity over in Cambridge, inside Cambridge, which is on a bit of a pause at the moment, and we've got a couple of other bits. But 146 is what we do. We're marketeers, and we've got a really good team here that specialise in search. So getting you up Google, social media, getting engagement leads through LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter on the odd occasion, although that is less and less now. We build websites, we run ad campaigns. There's various bits we do here. So if you'd like to, like to find out a little bit more about what we do, check out our website or book in on a one-to-one with me, and we can go through things. Bex, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself. Oh, different colour hair there.
Yep, and I've got a different colour hair today than all the pictures. I like changing things up. Hello, everyone. I'm Becca, and I mostly do the marketing for 146, as well as working with clients. LinkedIn's a little bit of my forte. I quite enjoy LinkedIn, so I'm always the one who leads these webinars. So just I've been with the company now for a couple of years. It has been, and
almost
I'm excited about talking about LinkedIn company pages today. My favourite subject.
Cool. Just a quick note before we crack on. This webinar, as it always is totally free. As I said, it's our way of giving back. But we need to update the logo on here, actually. We do support, we don't have a charity of the year per se, and we will support charities where we can, but we'd like to specifically support Cynthia Spencer where we can as well. So if you, do we usually send over a link, a Just Giving link, Bex, after the meeting? We do. So we usually send over Just Giving link after the meeting. If you wanted to, there's no pressure, there's no checking. If you wanted to make a donation of what would be a ticket fee, whatever that would be, feel free to do that. We'll send over an email afterwards. Otherwise, we are running we're part of an event that's supporting Cynthia Spencer at the moment, called the Franklin's £50 Challenge. It's for Franklin solicitors who are a client of ours, where we basically give them £50 and we've got to turn it into as much money for Cynthia Spencer as possible by running events. One of the events we will be running is a barbecue, which has been a bit of a yearly thing now. So if you are based near Moulton Park and you fancy coming along to a barbecue, we haven't set the date yet, but keep an eye on our socials and pop down breakfast, lunch, and we'll be doing some stuff on a certain day. A bit vague there because I don't know the date yet.
No, we haven't decided yet, have we?
No, we will do next week. Cool. So that's the charity we support. So our topic for today, optimizing your LinkedIn company page. So we get a lot of requests for all around company LinkedIn company page, and it's one of the most difficult topics to address. And it's LinkedIn company pages, in my opinion. Bex might say something different. They are some of the most difficult pages, company-based pages to grow. And today we're going to take you through some tips, some strategies to help you optimize your company page, help you get more followers, help you get more engagement, more reach. And we're going to cover it off in, I think it's about 5 different areas. So hopefully you take something from it. If you've got any questions throughout, please put it in the webinar chat. I'm going to hand over to Bex. I'm going to monitor the webinar chat, so I'll answer any questions I can. So Bex, I'm going to hand over to you. Crack on and just let me know when you want me to skip slides, Bex.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, so we're going to look tiny bit about general maintenance and housekeeping for your company page, and we're going to look a little bit at making sure that you're using the right features. If you want to delve into any of our, we did one about LinkedIn company page features. We did a webinar about that last year, so that's when we went into using some of the features in way more detail. So if you have any specific questions about some of them, then that's fine. If you want to skip on, save to the next slide. But in general, making sure that you're using the features is good housekeeping. So your company page, different from your personal profile, you might not have one, or you might have one, but it's not been claimed by yourselves yet, or even not properly set up. It used to be absolutely useless, basically. There was no one really put very much effort into their company pages because no one ever saw them. It was all about personal profiles. LinkedIn very heavily wanted everyone who has a personal profile on LinkedIn to make the most out of that. It was all about personal connections, people talking to people, nothing to do with companies. And that was especially prevalent over COVID when everyone started talking way more about their personal lives and stuff like that. But since the pandemic, LinkedIn's realized a bit more about how the sales funnel works, and that yes, some people are really confident on LinkedIn, but your company is always going to be your company, and employees come and go. So they started putting more emphasis basically on having a company profile that is well built, fully optimized, and makes use of all of the features that they're bringing out as a way for you to have some sort of consistency on LinkedIn when your employees aren't your strongest LinkedIn people, if that makes sense. So, some basic tips for keeping your company page looking good. Make sure that you've got up-to-date images across all your profiles, like your personal, your employees' personal, and your company page. You will want similar heading images on your banners at the top. You want to have similar descriptions, making sure that the company page is up to date. If you celebrated an anniversary in 2010 and it says it's your anniversary year still, then you want to update that and make sure that you're keeping on top of what's going on in your company and talking about it on your company page. When it comes to posting socials as well, they want to go out on your company page. We'll go into that in a bit more detail. But basically, your general maintenance of keeping your images, your descriptions, and your employees up to date on your company page is a really good starting point. Then to go in a bit more detail on some of the features that LinkedIn have been releasing over the last couple of years to make more of the company page. If you have a look on your company page, you'll see that there's now sections for commitments, sections for called ethics, adding your values. You can add your work from home policies on there. It's still free to add jobs that you're hiring, and you can put them on your company page. It's not just, you don't just have to put that on your personal profile anymore. You can add leads forms for like actively encouraging leads and having call to actions on your company page. So they've added all of these features in basically just to make it so that when people come across your company, there's so many actions for them to take without having to make a personal connection, or having to know a personal connection with the company. That said, as part of your personal profile, being connected with a company, you can invite lots of connections of your own. So LinkedIn currently let you send out like 200 connections a month.
I think it's 250, isn't it? I can't remember which one. In fact, I looked the other day as well, and for some reason I can't remember whether it's 250 or 200. But
so yeah, so there's a section on the company profile where it's like, your own connections. You can add them, you can invite them to like your company page, and although it depends. Like me, a lot of my connections, not all of them are interested. Like, you know, some of them won't be interested. They're people I connected with when I left school, and I know they're not interested in an agency. But there are new connections all the time that I'm making that it would be great for them to like our company page. And being able to do that quickly through the company page is nice. It's easy and it's a quick way of growing followers. So basically, there are hopefully this little chapter that we're talking about here is just to let you know that LinkedIn really do want people to be using the company page more, and they're giving people tools to enhance their company pages and make more out of it. But there are those little things that you can do as well, just to make sure that when people come and visit your company page, because although LinkedIn is used to search, like searching is a really big part, and you might be looking for services. So if you're looking for a photographer, let's say, and you're looking on LinkedIn, yes, you're going to see people popping up who are photographers, but you can also search via companies. And if you have a look on a personal profile, and you can also see a company page, and that company page just looks like it's not being looked after, or the company pages come up in the results first, and you're having a look and it's like, well, they don't really put very much effort in. It might, you know, it makes a difference compared to someone who does put a lot of effort into their company page, and you don't have to personally connect with that person first. This is also really helpful when you don't want people to see that you're looking at their profiles. So if anything, it's a good way of getting more people to look at your company without them looking at your profile. Because obviously, every time anyone looks at someone's profile, if you can see it, they're risking a cold email coming out to them, or a sales message just being like, "Oh, hi, saw you looking at my profile." So again, it's another good way to get views without putting any pressure on people. So if we move on to the next slide, unless Dave's got anything else he wants to say.
Just before, yeah, I was going to say, just before we go, I popped into the chat that we talked about inviting connections, and I said there were pros and cons of this worth noting. So I thought I'd actually note what I deem to be the pros and cons. Obviously, the pros are you can potentially grow your company page, which is great because you get more eyes on it. You get more people seeing your content, and potentially that could be a customer. You know, it all comes down to who might buy into you as a business. However, the cons are it can come across really spammy, and there are people. I hate spammy based stuff. You know, I have people connect with me all the time, and I'll get a few a week where people will connect with me and they'll send me a sales message straight away. And then they'll chase it up, and my kind of default response, if they chase it up, I'll be nice about it, but I'll say, look, I don't do spammy sales messages. It doesn't work for me. I ignore people straight away and I disconnect from them. And I feel like doing that on a company page, inviting connections, can come across a bit like that, especially if you do it too often. So make sure that, as with any kind of marketing you do, make sure it's targeted, make sure there's a reason for doing it. Don't just go spamming everyone, because some people might not even be relevant. So there are pros and cons of just inviting connections to your LinkedIn page. Personally, I think, and I think this is the next section, I think it should come through better content.
Mm-hmm.
Better content is going to create followers and more engagement. And I think that's what it should come through. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't invite your connections as well. Just be quite targeted with it. Over to you, Bex.
Yeah, so when we're talking about social content, I mentioned as part of the like general maintenance and good housekeeping for your company page is adding social posts. And I don't know, some of you might already do this, some of you might not. Like, it'd be really good to hear what your thoughts are actually on how many of you do post regularly on your LinkedIn company pages, and how many of you post on your personal pages but don't think about whether that should be shared on your company page. Well, basically, because we understand, and so does LinkedIn, like this is why they're making the changes. You can't rely on your employees to post all the time. If you've got an in-house marketer, that's great. Or if you use an agency, that's great. And they're posting out regular content. You're probably on Instagram. You're almost definitely on Facebook. LinkedIn, some people feel like it's very much just personal connections, and that their company page and posting out social posts, posting out images of behind the scenes and stuff isn't really the kind of place where you do it. Like a lot of people, when we're talking to them about why they're not using their LinkedIn that much, they'll come back and they'll go, well, it's all just, you just need to sell on it, don't you? Like, I'm not really a salesy person. I kind of just lurk on there. I'm mostly just on there to see what other people do. And I don't really feel like I can grow on LinkedIn if unless I'm posting out sales stuff. Well, obviously, social media is part of the sales kind of technique of showing people what you can do and what you are about. And that definitely has a place on LinkedIn. But the best place to have that coming from is your company page. And then for your personal profiles to be sharing it. So when we're talking about social content, the stuff that goes on LinkedIn, especially since the pandemic, it can be it can be personal now. You don't want to make it too personal. But what you're posting on your Instagram and your Facebook is probably fine for LinkedIn. And there's a lot of you'll see a lot of people who will say that you can't cross post and you shouldn't put your Instagram in, like, stuff that goes on your Instagram has no place on Twitter, and it doesn't go on Facebook if it's on Threads. And yeah, there are differences between all of the social platforms, and especially when it comes to video content, like maybe a TikTok wouldn't be as relevant on a LinkedIn. That's kind of down to what your branding is all about and what you do, and what the video is, of course. But I think people feel like they can post a lot less on LinkedIn than they actually can. So we've got we've got a list on the blog that we've written about this, and I was just going to pop through some of the things that you can post. That's perfectly acceptable to put out there. It's all sales. If you think about social media, everything that you post out is kind of salesy anyway. So don't feel like you have to be salesy. If you've got a post going out on Instagram, have a look at it and see, yeah, this could go on our company page on LinkedIn. And when it goes on your company page on LinkedIn, it's no different really from your Instagram company profile. The key is then sharing it afterwards using your personal ones. But behind the scenes, company news, accomplishments in your team, especially when you can tag your employees in to those accomplishments and get them sharing it on their network. It's not just about when they post that they've started a new job. For example, it's about you posting that you have a new employee as well, and getting a photo with them, a good quality photo on their first day, or rather than it being the generic cartoon screen that LinkedIn makes you put up if you don't put up a proper post. You can advertise jobs on there. You can also give careers advice. Use your company page as a platform to engage more people in your industry. And when you're talking about it from a personal perspective, you might find it a little bit awkward talking about your own history, your career, or what advice you'd give out. But some people find that the anonymity of having a company profile, company page, and it coming from the company means that careers advice is wholly relevant and not at all something that can really be traced back to you if you don't want it to be. But again, like advice and guidance, whether that's advice on how to buy something that your product, advice on not getting swindled by people in your industry, advice on how to get into the industry. Again, that's kind of like careers advice. All of this can come from your company page and is perfectly relevant, and it makes sense to go out if it's like you've got to make sure that it's obviously relevant to your business, your industry. But there's such a wealth of opportunity there for your company page to be sharing so much of the effort that you're putting into your other social platforms. It should be coming out through your company page on LinkedIn too. Testimonials, fine to share reviews, even funny videos like POV videos or your opinion on something. And then LinkedIn, through your company page, you can also host live events, which you can't, you can do an Instagram live, and that is only on Instagram, and that has its place. But if you wanted to just pop on live and ask a few questions, or having a conversation between you and some of your employees and things like that, like, you can use LinkedIn company page for that. It's perfectly fine. It's underutilized. And if you're looking at your competitors and they're not doing stuff like this, then you can stand out a little bit there from them by making use of the socials, making use of your company page as a platform for your socials. Being active, basically active, relevant, and as Data put in this slide, being active, relevant, and consistent with good quality content, and using your company profile page to really, well, to launch all of this out, is a really good way of getting seen. LinkedIn like it when people use their company pages, and they really like it when people are active and consistent on LinkedIn. It used to be that if you did that on your company page, they wouldn't care, and it really wouldn't matter. But the algorithm is really focusing in on that now, so it's a good time to get into it. Do you have anything to add, Dave?
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to add, generally around creating better content. Bex, you've gone through some great ideas in terms of, and they're not the only ideas, but some great ideas in terms of the types of content you can post. But it's really important to consider the media as well. And there's a number of different ways you can create, posts nowadays. You've got imagery, you've got video, you've got just text-based or graphic-based content. There's no rule to say that one works better than another, and it will depend on the industry that you're working in and your followers. I tend to find that imagery works better for me on LinkedIn than video does. Video works better for us on Instagram than imagery does. So just test and measure, but try different things. The key thing here is when we talk about better content, make sure that it's bloody good. Make sure that if you're using video, make sure it's really good. Make sure you've got captions, make sure it's clear, it's beautiful. Make sure the images are really good images, really well staged images. If they're staged, don't necessarily use Shutterstock if you can get away with doing your own stuff. Don't necessarily use Shutterstock or any kind of stock imagery. Just make sure that content is really, really good, because creating better content it's not just about being active, relevant, consistent. It's also about the type of content and the type of media you use. Because for me, getting more views on your company page, getting more engagement, getting more leads potentially through it is, I mean, for me, 90% of it is about that better content. That, by the way, that figure 90% is plucked out of midair, but you know what I mean. Well, don't they say 70% of stats are, I don't know, but basically what I'm saying is most of what is going to work for you is about creating better content. That's me personally. The next thing we come on to, I think it's the next thing, let's jump on it. Yes, next thing, employee engagement, which Bex, I'll hand over to you in a sec, is a big thing as well. So maybe not 90%. Who knows? I'm tired today. But Bex, I'll hand over to you on employee engagement, because this is a key one.
So when Dave's talking about percentages and stuff, we'll actually talk about analytics a bit later. Everyone's favorite subject, the thing that everyone really is scared of, analytics. We're going to try and make it a bit easier for you, and help you really understand why marketers are always harping on about why analytics are really important. And but we'll get to that in a second after I tell you how to enforce your employees to engage. Enforce is a strong word. We put encourage there as well.
I am down.
Basically, when it comes to the company page, and we've said that LinkedIn are really focusing on trying to get the company page used more, the the only problem is it still really relies on people sharing your company page. The only people that really see what's going on your company page are your followers and anyone searching for it. And I can pretty much guarantee that the amount of followers you've got on your LinkedIn company page is a much smaller number than the amount of people who are connected to even just two of your employees. If you look at your connections, how many connections you've got, and then look at your followers on your page, you can see that not all the time, but I'd be very interested actually to know, like if you look at yours now, have you got more followers on your company page or more connections? So it does make sense people think that LinkedIn is all about their personal profiles. The good thing about a company page is if you've got 5 employees, and let's say they've all got 300 connections, and they all share your company profile, the posts going on your company page, that's going out to way more people who will then hopefully follow your page or at least see what your company is doing. And LinkedIn really, really want people to share. It's so they basically rebuilt the algorithm around making sure that people look engaged about their company pages. So Dave puts a post up on the, or I'll write a post and I'll schedule it to go out on our company LinkedIn page, and then Dave shares it, and all his connections see it, and I share it, and my connections will see it. The algorithm does kind of funnel people into whether they should be seeing the posts or not, which is why you want to make sure that they're relevant and interesting. Because the AI is now providing such more details in the algorithm for the algorithm to learn, basically, that it can really tell if a post is going to be relevant to you or not. And this means that when a company post goes out and more people share it, and then you've got a higher chance, basically, of people seeing the post if your employees are sharing it. And then if it's relevant, then the algorithm will show it to the right people. The only thing is we found that most people really don't like going on their LinkedIn and sharing. If they're not in marketing, they're not fussed that much about their LinkedIn. If they're not in sales, they're not fussed about their LinkedIn. They might not even have a LinkedIn. And that's something that we come up against an awful lot with our clients who really want to grow their LinkedIn page. It's a really good platform for business to business. It's a great platform for business to consumer as well. But we might have all these great socials going out. No one's sharing them means no one is seeing it. And there's 2 things you can do with that, really, is you can hand over your personal profiles control to marketing people, to your marketing team or yourselves. If your managers have got 1,000 connections and they say they have no time to go on LinkedIn and do any sharing, taking over their profile is a great way of making sure that they're actually staying active. It means you can share all the posts, you can make comments, you can do everything that you need to do for them using their connections. And no one will be any the wiser that it's not actually that manager doing it. Most people don't like having their control of their own social profiles taken over by someone else, though. Of course, because what you do have to remember, and you have to be a bit sensitive about, is people don't create their LinkedIn profiles for their bosses to use willy-nilly on whatever their company goals are. For some people, their LinkedIn is a private space where they can look for jobs and they can, find out about stuff, and they might only have it purely for job searching, and they're not going to want to give that up. They're not going to want to give that privacy up, which is perfectly understandable. So apart from encouraging your employees to share and, just sharing the content, adding some words in, talking about it, what we've done with some of our clients is we've even written out prompts for them to copy and paste just to get them feeling a little bit more confident about using it. a lot of the time it comes from a fear of not really understanding how LinkedIn works and what it's for. They just have the account. So talking people through talking through our clients through either doing the trainer session. So we train them on how LinkedIn works and they can train their staff, or we'll just go in and do a talk about how it works and how they can help get messages out and still keep their privacy if they want to. And then the other thing you can do is write it into contracts of new employment, basically. If you've got next time you take someone on and you just make an amendment that says, it's part of your job role here, or whether it's in their job description or it's part of their contract, we want you to be active on LinkedIn as part of your job role. And suddenly it's just not as much of a problem anymore, because as soon as they know that they're being paid to do it, then it's fine. If they're trying to get all their work done and you're saying they also need to be on LinkedIn and they need to be sharing this and they're not confident about it, and you're coming down hard on them about, well, why are you spending all this time on LinkedIn if you're not getting this done? It's not an environment that's going to foster great appreciation or a lot of effort being put into LinkedIn. But if you make it part of their job role, they feel like they're being paid for it, and even if there's an incentive there or not, but just an incentive to get the job done, you might find that people are more likely to pop on and do a bit of sharing and get more connections and be a bit more active on LinkedIn. What do you think, Dave? What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think
Difficult, isn't it?
I think there's a third avenue here, because if you're not willing, if you don't want to go down the route of the first two options, because the first one, we've encountered it a little bit, and it is a tricky one. Some people don't mind handing over ownership of their accounts or to be managed. A lot of people don't like it, which I totally get. The contractual side of things is again, that it does pose a couple of difficulties. It depends on how far you want to go with it, but obviously if you can do that, brilliant, because it does incentivize people to do it. It does almost change their mindset. But if you're literally just going down the route of, I need to encourage them somehow, then I think just coaching, training, encouragement, providing people with almost hints and tips of what they could share, when they could share things. Having social media guidelines as well is key, especially in larger businesses. The social media guidelines can have ways of encouraging people to post and give people ideas on how to post, because most of the issue here is people don't know what to post. The second thing it does is it makes sure it stays within the constraints of
professionalism.
Say again?
Professionalism.
But yeah, that's the word I'm looking for, professionalism. Not dissing your brand, not going against what your brand values are. I think that's quite important as well. So having social media guidelines are quite key. And employee engagement as a whole is, in my eyes, it's vital for growing a company page, because if it's just you, or if it's just a marketing team, or if it's just you as a director that's going out and sharing these company posts, it's only going to be seen by one additional person. If you've got 10 other people or 20 other people, 4 other people, it's doing that 4 times or 10 times or 20 times, and it's going to grow much quicker. So trying to either, whether you enforce or encourage, encouragement might be the avenue you want to go down. It will help. So I think it's vital. We had we had still got a customer, long-term customer, I won't name names, that had this exact issue. Their marketing team saw the value of getting employee engagement kind of going on LinkedIn, but they couldn't seem to get the buy-in from their senior team. So the marketeers were on board, but the senior team just weren't. And it's funny because one of their competitors do this very well, very well. It's someone we cite quite often as well. Check these guys out; they do it really well. This is what you should be doing. Yes, I know, but the senior team just don't want to do it. And ever since they had a member of staff move from their company to that competitor and saw them doing it straight away, they basically said, we need to be doing that. And it's funny how these things work. And the reason they didn't want to do it is they didn't want their employees poached. And if that is the reason for not getting your employees involved, because this is a big part of it, it's at least the 10% to the 90% that I said was on content. No, it is a bigger part. They're both, big parts of trying to grow a company page, getting the personal profiles kind of to interact with it. If that is the reason why, forget about it, because if someone wants to be poached, they will get found, because they'll still be on LinkedIn, they'll still get found. And if your employees are unhappy and are willing to get poached, whether they're being active on LinkedIn or not has got nothing to do with that. And actually, I'd argue that if they're being active on LinkedIn, they're buying into your company and your culture and your values more. So they're probably less likely to leave. So personally, I think employee engagement, absolutely key. There's a number of different ways you can go about it. Yeah, get on it. My thoughts. Should we move on?
Awesome. Analytics, everyone's favorite. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through. Analytics can be super complex, and that we're not all about that. That's not what you guys are here for. You want to learn, what you can do, what's in your power, and we're not expecting you to become Google Analytics masters by the end of this, and you don't need to be. For LinkedIn, you just need to really know what's working and how to spot what's working so that you can do more of it. That's the main thing. The reason analytics are great is because you can see what is working, what doesn't work, and then when you've got that information, you can use that to take the next steps and basically do more of the stuff that's working. However, it can feel like a really scary thing to get into. So we're just gonna, we've not got a huge amount of time, so I'm just gonna go into a couple of bits in LinkedIn Analytics. You know where it is. You've seen the button. You've seen it says Analytics. You've looked in it and you've gone, wow, that looks not fussed about that. I'll just click right off that. And that's perfectly understandable. What LinkedIn Analytics does is it gives you it gives you a metrics drop down. It tells you all about your impressions, clicks, how many reactions you're getting, how many comments you get, reposts if anyone's reposting it, and your engagement rate. Now, if you've got a really popular LinkedIn profile or company page, and you're a big company and you've already got a few thousand followers on your company page, then that's when you really want to be delving down into what are people commenting and what are the unique impressions. But to start with, if you're a small company or a medium company and you're trying to build up your company page, because we know LinkedIn is a great place for business to work. It's a great place for sales. All the statistics say that LinkedIn is still one of the best places to be on if you're a business. Almost any kind of business works on LinkedIn. And if you're, therefore, you're quite likely to see success if you put the effort in. And there's statistics even just recently coming out saying that so much more business is done successfully on LinkedIn with people who fill out their profiles, with people with active company pages and stuff like that. So, but how do you know what's working? We're going to say the best thing for you to look at really is engagement rate. So your analytics, I don't know if you're going to be looking at this at the same time or just making notes or anything, but it's all written down in the blog as well. Your analytics is split down into content. You can see visitors, you can see your followers. If you've got a lead set up, then there's a lead section that appears. It also gives you information about your competitors. But if we just look at your content, and in your content, look at engagement rate. You can see a little graph on your LinkedIn in your analytics where you can change the date. And your engagement rate is basically Oh, what's the maths?
What's
What's your
sorry?
engagement? What's your engagement rate? The maths of it's like how many impressions you've got times how many
People actually engage.
clicks and
Yeah,
reactions.
clicks.
Yeah, how many people
Yeah,
engage.
that kind of thing.
So it's how many people are seeing what you're doing compared to how many people are taking that step further, like times people or divided by people making an actual taking an action and engaging with you. And people are most likely to do this on posts they like. So if you look at your date range of 3 months and you see spikes in the engagement rate, you know that more people are interested in that post. What post did you put out that day? What was the post? What happened that day that meant that there was a spike? And if you're not seeing any spikes and you're not getting any engagement at the moment, try putting some social posts out on your company page and then have a look back and see. And you might find that you think video is the most popular thing. So you put videos out and then you put out a PDF or a photo and it gets way more engagement. And you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe I should do more of those. And that's really why analytics are important because so we've got a client and we really wanted to do video with them. They're a very video they're a client that are great for video, basically. The product that they have, the services they do, great for video. But a lot of effort into videos with them. They'd done no socials before really. And we made a load of videos. We also did some guides that we're posting to LinkedIn as PDFs. And when we look back at the analytics after a couple of months of doing this, the videos were popular, but the PDF guides that we were putting up of common terms and helpful tips and stuff, they were way more popular. More people were engaging on them, more people were sharing and commenting on the PDF guides than the videos. And so we've adjusted the strategy. Therefore, we're doing less videos with them. We're writing more guides because the people who were clicking on it are, and the people who are interested in engaging in that are the audience, the target audience that we want to be interested. And if they find that reading something that's kind of like breaking down a complex subject into a bit of an easier one to understand is easier than watching people do it and listening, then well, we better make more content for them that they like. So that's how the analytics like working in a nutshell. Have a look at your engagement rate. See, because you can click on the post. So when you look at your engagement rate, you can click on it and see in the content section what post it was that people are liking. So you can drill down to that. And you could just say, like, over 3 months, I'm going to have a look and see how many people engaged on this. The other sections of like looking at your visitors is good, and your followers. Followers are great. If you have a look on your followers, you can see the people who are following your company page, and you can look at their you can like filter it to tell you what the demographics are. So are all the people following your page entry level or senior? Are they geographically located near you? It's really cool to know that that's what's happening because then you can make changes if you need to. For example, if you're trying to reach people in Northamptonshire and all of your socials going out are getting you to get followers that are from a different country, then that's not as helpful. But you wouldn't know that if you didn't look. So we've really encouraged people to try and go into the analytics and even if you just look at the engagement rate in your content, then that will make a difference to how successful you grow because you'll know what's working and what's not. Is that right, Dave?
Yep, cool. Back in. Let's move on to the next session. So this is back to all hand over to you in a sec, but this is all about updates from LinkedIn, some related to company pages. So I'll hand over.
Yes. So while I was researching how to write like researching this blog and writing it up, we had a couple of interesting updates from LinkedIn, news articles that have come out in February. Basically, they had something called creator mode, which the marketers here will recognize. You probably are signed up to be in creator mode if you're in marketing, because it basically it gave people, especially in marketing and sales, or well, people who create content a lot, basically on LinkedIn, a few extra tools. And that was great. Everyone signed up to creator mode. It means that you can like launch your own newsletters and have a follow button instead of a connect button, stuff like that. Which has been very, very useful, except with that, the advent of AI and the changing way that hashtags are now going to be not used on LinkedIn, which is the other update. Basically, LinkedIn are getting rid of creator mode and giving everyone the tools that creator mode was until recently. You had to sign up to be creator mode. It kind of like it looked at your job description and what your job title is, and you anyone could say they were a creator, but you had to sign up to it. Whereas now, from now on, you're not going to need to have you're not going to need your hashtags that are available, like your personal ones that you have on your keywords on your profile page that comes with being a creator that says what you're talking about. And everyone's going to have the option to follow people instead of connect. And basically, everything that you were getting from creator mode is now going to be going out to everyone. So I think that's more of a it means that you feel a little like, I guess if you are a creator, you're not going to have that kind of like badge saying that you're a creator, that now everyone's going to be able to do it. But it has confirmed basically that LinkedIn is moving away from hashtags. LinkedIn have now released information saying we don't really need hashtags anymore. The algorithm with the use of AI is so much more advanced. If you mention, and it gives an example, if you mention Meta in your post, you don't need to add a hashtag Meta anymore, because the algorithm will know that you're talking about Meta. It doesn't need a hashtag to be able to tell that. People might still use it for searching, and you could even use it to just say, these are the subjects that I like talking about. But really, it's one less thing to worry about. Is you don't need to really worry about putting hashtags on your posts anymore. So when you are doing posts from your company page, you want to make it relevant and good quality, but you don't really need to think about what hashtags are going on there anymore, because LinkedIn they're going in this different direction of let's make it easier for everyone, and let's use advanced AI features and advanced algorithm to help people find the information that they need and show people the posts they're interested in using other ways. They can use context. They can read the posts and use context from the posts and context from what you're sharing to know that you would like to see that content. So every week we try and update people with new news coming from social media, but I just really wanted to stick these two in. Don't worry about hashtags anymore, and no creator mode anymore. So just thought that was an interesting thing to include.
Cool, thank you. Right, we finished 5 minutes early, which is cool.